Hi, my name's Rob, also known as the Cellar Man. Thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel. Today I was just going to do a quick review video on a beer I brewed a few weeks ago, and you can find the link for that video below. But just to recap, it was a Belgian Dubbel, and it was brewed on my Speedle Brewmaster 20. The recipe for the beer is on the other video. The most important thing is I used the Chimay yeast strain, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But first of all, I was going to just give you a look at my Kegerator, which I'm also really excited about, having beer on tap just around the corner from my house. Win. It's just a like 30-year-old fridge that I put some holes in, and the hardware came from the maltmiller.co.uk. So yeah, let's first have a poke around that. So the Kegerator is running off a 6.5 kilo gas bottle. All the kegs run off one gas supply. It's just a cheap welding regulator. Currently the Kegerator fits 3 kegs, but could probably be modified to fit 4 if I got my hacksaw out. They're all ball lock kegs, just second-hand corner kegs. All the fittings are John Guest. I've got sort of 2 different gauges of pipe to regulate the pressure at the outlet of the tap. Quite a lot of narrow gauge pipe. So that just goes into the back of these sort of stainless shanks. And at the front I've got 4 intertap stainless taps, and they're front sealing, so you don't have to bother cleaning out the little vent holes or anything on them. The next thing I'm going to do is try the beer, so that's the best bit. So it's just run into this tap, I think. By the way, the beer is sitting at just over a bar pressure, which I thought was sort of a decent compromise for all of the beers. So lagers and ales and stuff like that. Obviously, ideally you'd have them running at a different pressure for each line, but that adds a bit of complication. Yeah, so I do find with these that the first, is that going to come into focus? Yeah, probably. The first few beers out of the keg are a little bit cloudy, but this one's quite nice and clear. Let's have a go. I have tried this before, yeah, and yeah, to be honest, I'm really pleased with it. One thing I did notice is that I used the Chimay yeast strain, and I actually had to crack out a bottle of Chimay just to test this, but the Chimay yeast produces tons of those sort of like phenols and almost like wheat beer characteristics, so that it almost smelled like a Dunkelweiss or something like that when it was in fermenter. But now it's sort of aged a bit, and some of those more like Belgian Dubbel characteristics, like plum and raisin characteristics, almost a bit sort of that winey oxidized character has sort of come through. And yeah, it's really nice. It's dried out really nicely. The final gravity was 1010, so what's that in Plato? 2.25, 2.5. I shouldn't do that, or shouldn't try and do that. Anyway, yeah, it's really nice. Colours, I think, for the star's pretty much spot on. Could maybe be a little bit darker, but at about 6% ABV, this has almost come out a bit like a session beer with characteristics of an Abbey Dubbel, which for me is pretty much spot on, because you don't always want to be drinking an 8 or 10% beer. It's nice to have something that you can have more than 1 pint of in a night. Yeah, let's have another go. The head seems to stick around decently, sort of getting a little bit of lacing. Yeah, there's not really that much more I can say about that. It's worked quite well. Now, one thing I have noticed is on some of the other taps, I've got a lager and an IPA and things like that, is that for my water profile seems to benefit the sort of slightly darker, more flavoursome beers a bit better. So possibly the next video I make and next project is putting in a domestic reverse osmosis water treatment, which sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is, and yeah, we'll run through that, and hopefully that'll just make my beer a little bit better. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time.